But the main issue with the Hague right now is that it lacks any basis in international law, because what they're doing now is they're just conjuring these courts into existence. The Security Council, members of the Security Council are declaring it into existence, and it's supposed to go through the General Assembly.
I think America keeps avoiding its jurisdiction and doesn't recognize it in terms of its troops abroad. Isn't that the case?
Well, that's a big problem. Is that the United States is one of the parties that sort of demands that different other parties, join the jurisdiction of a given court. Say, for example, in Africa or in former Yugoslavia, but they themselves are not parties. They're not under the jurisdiction, so you couldn't take. They're not signatories themselves, so you couldn't take the United States to try their generals for war crimes during the bombing, for example, of Belgrade in Serbia in '99, or that the Chinese couldn't use that to sue them for when the Chinese building was bombed in Belgrade. Was it the ambassador or the embassy was bombed?
I mean, in The Hague, I think some people have just died when the court case wasn't going the way the powers that be wanted. Didn't somebody disappear in jail and die?
Oh, well, there's been a number of people. Famously, Milosevic from Yugoslavia was able to basically beat the Kangaroo court, which is a pretty amazing feat, and they just basically, I don't know, they used polonium or they used something, but they basically gave him some sort of cancer or some sort of disease, and he died. And then now you have Shechel, who were actually now involved in an international campaign to have him set free. We definitely got to let the guy out. We got to set the guy free. And he's in The Hague right now in one of the Hague courts. So, I can tell you that there's been fairly sizable protest movements that popped up, have been doing protests about The Hague because it's a NATO court. And I think that's what your listeners would be interested in hearing, is that the NATO basically controls The Hague. What is The Hague? Well, it's 2, 3, 4 different courts that operate independently, that they were ordered into existence. The first one had the precedent correctly of being set up by the UN through the General Assembly, but subsequent courts have been set up by the Security Council. So this is a problem. This is a breach of precedent. And interestingly, Muammar Gaddafi had written about the illegality of The Hague and how the International Court, Criminal Court, International Court of Justice, and the International Court for the former Yugoslavia were not based in legal precedent, right? So that they failed to meet certain tests of themselves.
It seems strange to me the leader of North Sudan is just flying around Africa, flying to different countries, and The Hague there's some indictment that he should show at The Hague, and people ignore it.
Right, yeah. One of the Hague courts is operating in Africa. Okay. And they've issued some indictments for different people, but basically what you need to have happen, the way it's set up, because the Hague are courts that are pretty much work in the interest of NATO. And so if you have people who have warrants, then you have then Obama, for example, could say, oh, we're sending 500 Marines into such and such country to do an arrest warrant. This is an at-large criminal, right? So this is how they're doing it.
Right. Thanks very much for giving us a general outline of the Kangaroo Court in The Hague, all 4 of them.